Don't miss this month's live Patriot Q&A hour as John Michael Chambers hosts our Patriot Power guest, private investigative journalist Mike King. Get your questions answered. Mark your calendars. June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your password and you're in. Not a JMC Broadcasting Premium member yet? You could be. Simply click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your info, and that's it. John and Mike, looking forward to answering your questions for the solid hour. See you there. Where we go one, we go all.
Friday, June 12, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome to this special broadcast with investigative journalist, historian, and researcher, the host of Real News and History, Mr. Mike King. Mike King, realnewsandhistory.com, is a private investigative journalist and historical researcher based in the New York City metro area of New Jersey. A 1987 graduate of Rutgers University, King's subsequent career in marketing and advertising equipped him with a unique perspective when it comes to understanding how public opinion is indeed scientifically manufactured. Marketing acumen combines with city boy instincts to make King one of the most tenacious detectors of things that just simply don't add up in the world today. So we'll machete through that madness in this episode. Mike says of his admitted quirks, irreverent disdain for, quote, conventional wisdom, an uncanny ability to ferret out and weave together important data points that others miss. He says, had Sherlock Holmes been an actual historical personage, I would have been his reincarnation. So we've got some good New York, New Jersey humor there, and I'm real happy to join up again with Mike King. Welcome back, sir. Good to see you.
John, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good.
How
Go
you
back
doing?
to my producer. Say that again?
I was just going to say, as we say in New York, New Jersey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it by you? And the funny thing is, when you ask how you're doing, they never listen to the answer because nobody cares. Just kidding. All right. Pardon me, folks. My roots go back to New York. For those that don't know, well, it's hard to hide the accent, but I was born and raised there for 29 years. And now, of course, I'm over here in northern Thailand. You know, to my producer, let's go back to those two books. I'm sorry, I'm throwing us off a bit. Yeah, 3-screen. Mike, talk with us about what we see on the screen here to alert our viewers that are new to your work.
Well, I've got 36 books in all that I've authored over the course of the last 15 years or so. These two here are very relevant lately, and they're in great demand. They're very simple reads. The Crash Course New World Order, 250 Years of the Globalist Conspiracy in just 1 hour. That's about all it should take to read. It's also heavily illustrated. And what this does, it's excellent, just as it's described, a crash course, to give one a sound overview of the nature of this problem, this international cabal that has been tormenting humanity for at least a quarter of a millennium, even more. And once you're done with that, the good news is the happy ending. That's the book on the right, The Secret Plan to Save Humanity, a summary of the Q operation and the rise of Commander Trump, who, as we know, was recruited by the military specifically for the purpose of destroying this cabal described in the first book through various means of irregular warfare. So these go together very well. They're available in physical form at my Amazon author page, which is Mike King, or you can get them in PDF format with all my books at realnewsandhistory.com. So they go very well together. One defines the problem, and the other one shows you the ongoing solution, or in my view, the already completed solution. We're just living through a period of time where we have to see certain reenactments and what I call replays. But that's really gives one a sound historical as well as contemporary overview of the world situation.
Well said. Thank you. And I like how each book is broken up that way. You know, the problem, the solution of which you stated, much of it's already played out. The rest is playing out. While we're on that subject, folks, we're going to get into these issues. We're going to get into Q. We're going to get into what's happening on the White House lawn and some of the critical things, Russiagate, EBS, et cetera, and what the operation's about in a moment with Mike. But while we've got a lot of new folks coming aboard, so let's spend a few minutes and orient them a little bit further to the prolific work that Mike has laid out. Let's go to the realnewsandhistory.com website. Mike, perhaps you can poke us around there. My producer will navigate around and orient those new to you and your work.
Well, this is really utterly unique work. You're not going to find any content like this on the internet because it's a couple unique niches that I fill with this site. It is the fusion of history and the news together, intertwined all in one package. Because if you think about it, my motto there at the site, it really is accurate. There's the motto: fake history is the fake news that is passed. Mirror. This phenomenon of fake news did not begin in recent times, in the Trump era or post 9/11, or even in the 20th century. It's been going on a long time. And what happens when fake news goes unchallenged, fake news plus the passage of time, you have the subject of history. And it becomes a phony academic subject. So the history as we understand it is pretty much all wrong. And if you don't correct the history, to me, it's the equivalent of botching a math problem early on and then continuing to build sub-equations upon that error. Well, the final solution is bound to be wrong. So that's what I do. I do both. And when it's presented in this manner, and very simple and concise, it really helps one to understand contemporary events much better, because I'm giving you 100,
it reminds you.
200 years of build-up. Yeah.
I oftentimes invoke George Carlin when I see it applicable, so I sound like a broken record to those that follow me, but I think of George Carlin when he used an analogy regarding politicians, but it fits to what you're saying about history. Garbage in, garbage out. If we got a couple of 100 years of garbage history, you got a problem in society today, and you're breaking that down. Let's go to the Amazon.com site and show our viewers the broad scope and breadth of your work. Scroll down a bit. Take a look at all this material.
Yeah,
And the links will be
36 books in all, plus Kindle.
Go ahead.
Some of these are available on Kindle and all. And it just covers everything. And even topics that one would think that they're not really interested in, like Napoleon. Well, I show that the war against Napoleon is the same war that was being waged against Donald Trump. Who funded the final wars against Napoleon? The House of Rothschild. And that's how they became preeminent in Britain. And who is listed in the Q post scores of times? The House of Rothschild. So, once you see the direct connection, that relevance, then all of a sudden, history, which is presented as a boring subject, but it's not, truly does come to life. It really is an exciting subject. It's got intrigue and suspense, action, murder, lots of murder, and lots of war. But those are all my books at my Amazon page. And again, my author page is Mike S. King. And you'll find most of them there. Some of these are just Kindles. But at my website, if you want the World War II stuff, like those two books in particular right there, The Bad War and The Song That Never Ends, is still a little too hot to handle for Amazon. But if you go to realnewsandhistory.com, whatever's not available at Amazon, you can get through me directly by sending in an inquiry, and then you'll receive an invoice. I've also got a PDF package. It's so many books, most economical for $29. You get all 36 books in PDF format. That's the Mike King University offer. It's a true steal, because for some people,
that's the way to go.
Yeah. And but other people
question about it.
will get the whole bunch. I have a special offer on that. But one way or the other, people need to read all of these, and they're highly readable, because I emphasize clarity and conciseness, and there's tons of illustrations. I don't write these heavy academic tomes for people
Right.
to be engrossed in.
Sure.
I want to get the information up there and get people up the learning curve. So this stuff is very easy to read, and it's entertaining to read.
Mhm.
And most important, it's very sticky. And that's kind of like with my marketing background. I present the case in such a way that once people read through it, they not only understand it right away, but it sticks because I'm just telling a
Yes.
story.
Very important.
Yeah.
Straightforward narrative based on deep research. And you're right, you sort of carved out a niche within our collective voice movement to help everybody understand where we've been, where we are, and potentially where we're heading. And on that note, I'd like you to weigh in. If you have any comments, what's your overall analysis of what you see happening on the White House lawn in preparation for June 14th? Is there something else that you can see into that besides the obvious?
Well, one thing I've learned with monitoring this movie, as we call it, is just when you think they're giving you a communication that something's going to happen and here it is, it's this and that,
Right.
they take another twist and turn. So it's almost unpredictable. But it's very interesting. There are a number of things that are very interesting. I just did a piece suggesting we ought to keep an eye on the World Cup, the men's final. I'm not predicting anything. I don't have the script in hand.
Mhm.
If you look at what's unfolding in the world today, and then you match it up against Q's numerous posts about the film, The Sum of All Fears, and Trump's continued obsession, which is a 10-year-old fixation with the song Nessun Dorma, the aria, which is played in the climactic scene of Sum of All Fears. There's absolutely no question that Sum of All Fears / Nessun Dorma means something. And what happens in that film? Well, there's a false flag attack at a major sporting event, the Super Bowl. Q told us cryptically on 3 different occasions, this will make the Super Bowl seem like a puppy show. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, if we stay consistent with sports analogies, the only sporting event in the world that can make the Super Bowl seem like a puppy show is the final of the World Cup men's soccer, which is going to be held right here in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the dancing Israelis were arrested. So it's just interesting. So I don't know if that's going to be the specific moment, but in general, I am reasonably certain, not 100%, that at some point there's going to be what I call the FFF, the fake false flag, meaning nobody's going to get hurt, but it will look like people got hurt. And the idea of the fake false flag in the book, Sum of All Fears, it is initially blamed on Iran. In the movie version of the Sum of All Fears, it's initially blamed on Russia. And right when we are on the precipice of major war, World War III, it's discovered that it's somebody else that did it. It was a false flag. And that's what the movie's about. Now, this isn't me just speculating based on limited data and just trying to come up with crazy theories to be, unique and get attention. No. Again, Q repeatedly has posted the Sum of All Fears in text, and in numerous occasions, he's put up an image of the movie poster, Sum of All Fears. And as for Trump with Nessun Dorma, I mean, he's even got his own personal tenor that he brings around the country to sing Nessun Dorma. And the media noticed this even many years ago. What is his obsession with Nessun Dorma? Is this like some kind of threat because that song was played during the climactic execution scene of Sum of All Fears? So I don't know when this is going to come, but you've got the hints from the Q post and from Trump itself about a false flag. But more importantly, if you look at what's been developing these last few months, what do we see? What does the whole world see now? Clearly, obviously, even normies can see it. They're seeing that Trump wants to pull away from this so-called war in Iran, and this character, quote unquote, BB 2.0, won't allow it. He wants to keep us in. You see? And then
Yes.
there's this quiet chatter about possibilities of false flag, Joe Kent and Tucker Carlson. Now we just had a big speech on the USS Liberty. So it just seems like the thought is out there. And you put it all together.
Mhm.
That's what I'm hoping for and I'm waiting on is the FFF.
Yes. Well, thank you for all those insights. Uh, the water is boiling. We can see this. June 14th should be an interesting day. One thing I noticed on some of the images I've seen on social media, providing it was accurate, I think it is. It looked like the EBS colors were behind
Yes.
the stage or something of the sort. There's all kinds of messaging going on there that can be read into, but let's see what plays out. We know that the drums are beating very loud, increasingly so between now and the midterms, for sure. And you mentioned BB 2.0. I'm in agreement with that. What I'd like to do real quick, I'm going to define Q to one way to define Q, and then have you contribute to that. And I do this for the new folks that came aboard. What is Q? Q can be defined in part as the greatest open source military intelligence operation of our time. That was, as I understand from my conversations with Juan O'Savin, born out of the Department of Energy. And it's not an individual, it's perhaps a team. And it's pretty evident, at least to me, that Q plus is in fact Donald J. Trump. You can correct me any way you choose, Mike, but what's your best way to contribute to the definition of Q for those coming aboard newly?
Well, that's definitely accurate what you just said. And just to further build upon it, give a background. I cover a lot of that in this book. This is amazing. In 1 hour, people will get a really solid idea of what the operation is. It's essentially a military coup against the bad guys. They were not going to allow Hillary Clinton to deliver the final death blow to this country and to this world. So it was decided. I mean, the preparation goes years in advance. I'm not sure when they started it. But in 2016, they launched a coup, a military coup of this country. But it was not the conventional coup that I used to anticipate and dream about. I always thought to myself, and this is actually a Q post, but I thought many years ago, the only way is the military. We're not going to vote our way out of this. And that's exactly what happened. But it wasn't your traditional bang, bang, shoot 'em up, come in, guns blazing military coup, like the Spanish Civil War or like Argentina, Brazil, etc. It was a different kind of coup. It was irregular warfare, psychological warfare. And the military has tremendous resources dedicated and manpower towards that form of warfare. So, in essence, what it involved, they needed to get their man in the White House in order to enable this to unfold. So that was critical. And Trump is the front man for this Q operation. And when he was elected, they immediately proceeded to wage this war through informational means, through communications, through lawfare, and most importantly, beginning the process of arresting people. God only knows how many people, big people, have been arrested and disappeared. We know about Joe Biden. Imagine how many other people on lower levels and mid levels were arrested and disappeared. But how did they do that? Well, they did that by things like executive orders 13818, 13848, which declared national emergency. And like as Trump was doing it, it's like they didn't even realize what he was doing it. But this gave the military the powers to begin arresting people because we're under national emergency, arresting people for things like extreme corruption. That's literally the name of these executive orders. Election fraud, foreign interference, human rights abuse, that's your child sex trafficking. So it covers a lot of territory. So anyone involved, either directly or tangentially with those type of activities, they came under the authority. They were able to legally be arrested and tried. So all of these deep state players over a course of years were just disappeared and arrested, and their assets were seized and they no longer have any
Yes.
power. I can demonstrate that they are not in control. People who think that the deep state is making a war or a last stand against Trump, no, I do not agree with that. I am in the camp of total control. But this is how it happened. Now, the only thing we're waiting on now is the replay for the public, because the public would never have understood this. You certainly could not have come out blasting. That would have led to a civil war in this country. And nor could Trump just overtly start arresting people. All right. First, these players had to be removed from the chessboard. And what we're waiting now is the process of replaying it publicly in such a way that the public will understand why. And that's already kind of happening. Yes, the public by and large is asleep. They have no idea of this stuff that we're talking about. But let's just look at this Israel issue as one example.
Mm-hmm.
This is historic. Israel is now upside down in terms of public approval. There was a time where you could not whisper anything negative about Israel. Now, it's not only socially permissible, it's kind of in fashion. Everybody's dumping on Netanyahu. And Trump himself just said last week with that so-called leaked call, that's all part of the game. Bibi, what the F are you doing? Everybody hates you and everybody hates Israel now. And that's true. And you've got but that's the kind of prep work that took a long time to set up in anticipation of some sort of crisis event is going to happen. And again, this is all film. I call this a wag the dog war. But at some point, they're going to script this character Bibi to do something really, really scary and radical. That is where I believe we're going. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. It dovetailed into my next question. But before I get there, save Israel for last, maybe the paraphrase. I'm not sure if it's a direct quote. You would know better than I, coming from the Q boards. I think what you've just done is speculated, that we're getting close to that moment. Would you straight up say that now? We're close to the save Israel for last moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And that post was made in November of 2018, a long time ago. And it said, we're saving Israel for last. There is a very specific reason why Israel has not been mentioned a single time. So that's the second part of that. Well, what is that specific reason? Well, I think it's quite obvious, because at that time and historically, you couldn't say anything about Israel. Not only would you be destroyed by the controlled media, but more importantly, the public was so brainwashed. The moment they hear someone trashing Israel, the Pavlovian instincts kick in. Oh, anti-Semite. Oh, Holocaust. That sounds like a Nazi. You couldn't say it. How do you get around that? How do you break that? Well, it took several years. All the bad publicity with all this stuff they staged in Gaza. I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. If you would have told me 10 years ago, Mike, there's going to come a day soon where Israel and the prime minister of Israel is about as popular as a skunk at a garden party. Israel would be below 30% approval. I would have never believed it. And here we are. Who could have predicted that? This doesn't just happen spontaneously. There was a whole scientific, psychological process to it, clearly foretold to us in that Q post. We're saving Israel for last. And here we are approaching the end of the game. And Israel's getting hammered every day.
Truth's coming out. It's an incredible plan. I want to step backwards before we move forward. I took some notes when you were speaking earlier. And again, I don't expect you or anyone that's not directly connected to the higher levels of intelligence to know this definitively. But my question to you is, what's your perception of when this Q military operation, at least in concept and action, began? Would it be with JFK Sr.'s death, or would it be with the proposed JFK Jr. death? What triggered Q?
Well, there's two answers to that. That's something I've given a lot of thought to, actually. And one is the generalistic idea of when did patriots in our military begin to worry about these sorts of activities. And the first historical indication of that is 1932. The Communist Party had organized the so-called Bonus Army March and had a big demonstration in Washington. World War I veterans. They brought them out. The guys were out of work. They wanted their World War I bonus like 10 years early. But it was communists were organizing it. And the whole point was just to create chaos. It was an election year. They got to get rid of Hoover to get their boy FDR in to revolutionize this country. And Hoover brought in General MacArthur just to monitor the situation, but he gave him ample latitude to do what he felt he had to do. And MacArthur cracked down hard, tore down their tents, their shacks, cracked a few heads, sent them all home. He didn't do it because he was a bully or a tyrant. MacArthur understood. And both his historical detractors even admit this, that MacArthur believed that this was part of a communist insurrection plot, and it had to be nipped in the bud hard before it spread to other cities. Okay, we can fast forward into the World War II now, and this has more direct implications or application towards the Q operation of today. During World War II, the U.S. Army Signal Corps began intercepting communications of the Soviets. Even though they were our so-called ally, they obviously didn't trust them. And what they discovered in the process, John, is that the Soviets were communicating amongst themselves about the assets they had in the U.S. government in the Roosevelt administration. So the U.S. Army Signal Corps, which is the forerunner of no such agency, the NSA, how many times is that mentioned in the Q boards? But they kept this program in place without the knowledge of any U.S. president or Congress or Senate for 40 years. These intercepted messages were not declassified until 1990s, and they really confirmed what Joe McCarthy was talking about. We had a serious infiltration of the government. But the moral of the story here, as is relevant to this Q operation, is that for 40 years, you've got the military monitoring the communications of the bad guys. They're doing it completely on their own initiative without anybody's permission. So that's kind of like a serious forerunner to Q operation. And it's proof that we're really concerned about what's going on in this country.
Yes.
And this continued all the way until the 1980s, this program. Imagine that. And no president was ever told about it.
Yeah.
So now, when does this transform into this actual specific planned out operation? I don't know, but my best guess is probably sometime in the 90s, because I'm of the opinion, this is just an educated guess, that the release of internet technology was the preparation for this, because that comes from the military. It was the ARPANET.
It wasn't Al Gore?
Exactly. Yeah. Because if you think about it, without the internet, we're not in this game at all, you know?
Absolutely.
But
it takes
surely,
go ahead.
Surely by the year 2010, 2011, absolutely the plan was in place. And that's about the time Trump all of a sudden starts making really strong, overtly political tweets, which was kind of weird. But now in retrospect, we see, and they may even have set up that TV show, The Apprentice, just to increase his visibility. We don't know that. So, it's hard to put a specific date on it, but it's a lot longer than just when he begins to post. Begins posting in 2017. The program is already at least 10 years old by that time.
Sure, makes sense. And to our viewers that are new, if you go to my website, jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Library of Truth, they're categoried out documentaries and videos on various different subjects. One subject is Q. You'll find Joe M videos. I'm sure, Mike, you're familiar with the Joe M storyline, which sort of lines up with what we're discussing. I want to talk about the EBS briefly, because as you stated when we first got on the show here, that a lot of folks are just kind of poking around right now going, hey, what's going on? They're stepping off of Fox and fake news, and they're coming down and looking at us guys, and they're going, interesting. So the EBS, unfortunately, due to a slew of podcasters over the years, has become the boy who cried wolf. And I think a lot of folks have learned on that. But I speak to, by and large, military, intelligence, and economic experts on my broadcasting. And from General Holt to Juan O'Savin to Ricardo Bossi to Jaco and the whole group, everyone's pretty much, I hate to put words in their mouth, but it's on the record, expecting an EBS. Now, where, when, and how is anybody's best guess. How would you care to weigh in on the EBS? And one last thing, a lot of folks think is going to happen between June 14th and July 4th, where other intel sources I have, including Juan, says no. What's your take on the timing? And timing is something we don't like to go into. So I'm not asking for a predictable date. I'm just asking for your opinions about the EBS. How will it play out in your crystal ball?
Well, I do believe it. And not only will it happen, and part of the reason I do believe it happened is Q told us it would happen. And not that Q is some kind of cult and, oh, Q, my guru said. No, because if you look at all the things that Q said were going to happen, anyone who says, oh, these things never happen, they're totally ignorant. I mean, it is incredible. And I'm not talking hit or miss Nostradamus stuff, specific things that nobody could have forecast. This saving Israel for last. This is just one example. So Q said we will be activating the EBS. I do believe it. Furthermore, I look at the sorry condition of the American spirit and intellect. I don't see how you can really finally get people over the edge to wake up absent this sort of emergency. Forget about a long process of education and informing people. Yes, we have awakened many, many people. Truly is historic. Because I go back to the days where, you had to give out brochures to get people to read something.
Sure.
I mean, today there's millions of us. It's astonishing, all because of this internet.
Yes.
Nonetheless, we are the minority still. Okay, so let's not get too carried away thinking that the whole country's waking up. But I do believe the public is at a point now where if certain things happened, they might understand it. Everybody knows about this Epstein Island. They don't know the details, but they know it's a bad place. They know it's a cover-up. Everybody knows about this lunatic Netanyahu in the Middle East, okay? Even if they just have a superficial understanding, that's good enough. Because when this stuff starts to pop and they put it all together, it'll make sense to people. But nonetheless, to get them to that point, to change what the Qs say, only at the precipice the people find the will to change. There has to be, again, quoting Q, a necessary scare event, right? I believe it's 107 coined the term near-death experience, right? So that all fits into the EBS, and I am expecting that. Absolutely. I don't see how you can finish the movie without it, frankly.
I think that's the final tip.
That's right. Yeah.
Final tipping
I'm
point.
not going to take any bait on the timing, but again, I will just say we have some interesting stuff coming up with
without question.
The 4th of July, the World Cup final. There's so many oddities about this World Cup final, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Madonna.
Let me ask you about Russiagate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue, Mike. Continue your thought. No,
I was just saying there's a lot of strange things about this World Cup, and I've got a piece up at my site. Like, just for one, Madonna is going to be singing at the halftime show. There's no way she's alive. She's not alive. So what does this tell you? It tells you that the Q operation is running sports. And I've done numerous articles on that. I'm not going to say they're rigging games, but they have oversight of these events, like at the Olympics when they had all these trannies come out and reenact the Last Supper. That was done to inflame people, incite people.
Sure.
Okay. People are starting to push back against all this gay stuff, things like that. I am convinced that they're controlling sporting events, and it's interesting how Trump made it such a priority 10 years ago to get the World Cup here, and the final played right in New York, New Jersey. So I'm keeping an eye on that as an event. Yeah, obviously the 250th is an event. But as a generalistic statement, I would bet money eventually when it's time for the climax, we'll get that EBS.
Thank you. Let's talk about Russiagate for a moment. I'm of the opinion that says, I mean, we see the information's already been provided by the DNI and perhaps Cash, and certainly the president has been pounding that narrative since the day they stole it. And now the evidence is official and coming through. One probably can expect Tulsi Gabbard to drop a few more hand grenades before she exits the script, at least in the role she's playing. My question is, I think Russiagate, that whole plot against disrupting and trying to overthrowing elections, is coming home to roost now. We've got Comey, Brennan, all the rest are next, and President Trump, of course. All roads lead to Obama. They're very clear about treason, very clear about the punishment for treason. There's been no skirting or dancing or messing around with words to be politically correct. It is out there front and center as I see it. In your crystal ball, how do you see those? Because we have the midterms coming up, slightly important. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but what do you see playing out in terms of justice between now and midterms?
Oh, I think Russiagate will come out before the midterms. And by the way, I'm not really concerned about the midterms anyway, because we are under a military occupation government. So this Congress, I call it the Congress with a Q, they're under total submission. I don't even know if they're in session. Half of the people are under orders or wearing masks. I saw Nancy Pelosi the other day. So why worry about congressional elections when we're still under military government anyway? It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I
Let me
don't know
interject real
when-
quick, Mike. The
Yeah.
president, to validate your point, the president has made it pretty clear. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. If we don't get the SAVE Act passed and we can't do a free and fair election, he's just going to go straight to the top and declare a national state of emergency for elections and get it done right, if I've understood that correctly. So while on the surface, we should all be greatly concerned about a free and fair midterms, because the last thing we want is the House and Senate over to the other side. But deep down, I agree with you, Mike. It's a military operation. There's no way we're going to have another election stolen. And make me wrong. I hope not. But I think those days are over.
No, they are. This is just a matter of play acting things for the public. They've got total. I mean, think about it, John. Think about the degree of control you have to put some military operative in a Joe Biden mask and stick him in a fake White House for 4 years and get away with it. And nobody questioned it. Okay. So you've got that kind of muscle. What are we worrying about? No, I am totally in the total control camp, which is not to say that there's some remnant pockets of stuff going on or some people still got to be taken care of. But yeah, I'm in the control camp. As to your question about Russiagate, it's important to understand, and I only just kind of reinforced or was reminded of this recently, because I did a Rumble series where I went through all 5,000 Q posts, and I broke it up into 24 episodes. I don't talk about each and every post, of course, but all the major essentials. And one thing that strikes me going through that within a matter of weeks was how frequently Q made it crystal clear that the first of the scandals to pop is going to be FISA-gate, Russiagate. That would be the first. Specifically said that. And he went on to explain it has to be something that the public can swallow before we get to things like the Clinton Foundation and the Epstein, you understand? Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? You got to have like an appetizer people can swallow. So, okay, they tried to overthrow the government. They manufactured fake evidence and they got warrants on this. This is true. Okay. And then it specifically said, then we go to Clinton Foundation. So that's important. That I believe that's going to be first. And I mean, all the indicators are there that it's kind of imminent. But then again, they've been saying this for several months now. But without predicting it, I'll just say I'm expecting it to be before the midterms that the Russiagate thing will pop, and that's going to be the go sign, because Q said specifically that'll be first of the major scandals on the domestic front. As far as the foreign affairs with Israel, that's a whole different. I don't know when they're going to activate that as well. But as far as beginning the process of cleaning this country up domestically, they did make it clear that FISA is going to be first. Russiagate.
There you have it. Well, we'll be watching closely. I don't know if you have any research or the historical research you do, as well as relating to the current events when it comes to the global, what I'm calling a global financial reset. Folks call it a global currency reset, but a currency is just a part of it, a big part of it. But so I call it the global financial reset, as all things are changing in that space globally. Do you have any comments about the March 26th release from the Treasury Department of the Treasury-backed dollar entering the stage, while the Federal Reserve note eventually will go away? That whole space, I'm going to throw a few things at the dartboard, Mike, and get your feedback. A few more things, rather, at the marker board would also be Elon Musk's statements about not needing to work in a few more years. You can if you choose to. No need to save money. High universal income, birth certificate. Well, this goes to a different narrative, but birth certificate repatriation, IRS fraudulent illegal taxation repatriation. When you throw all that stuff at the marker board, what's your take on what you see happening concerning the currency, the global financial reset, and taking control back of our money?
Yeah. Well, this one is a tougher one to prognosticate because unlike with the Q posts, which deal with justice being meted out to the bad guys, it's quite clear, what we were told, and then what we're also seeing. With the economics part, as far as like specific policies, I wouldn't know, but what I would say with confidence is I absolutely believe there's radical things being put in place before the old system is removed. Because if you just collapse the system and say, okay, we're going to come in with something new, it's going to lead to a lot of disruption and suffering. So it's almost like, we have to build the thing and have it all set to go and kind of integrate it perhaps gradually into the existing system and then fade that away. I'm sure they got some very bright people and some systems in place to do that. Because if you just look at the numbers, the predicament we're in, they really are frightening. When you're beginning to approach a point where interest on the national debt will consume all of the income taxes. This is like Weimar Germany,
Yes.
We will continue like this, catastrophe.
Yeah. There's narratives out there from within the administration, including Musk and others, that the 39 trillion debt you're alluding to, or the federal debt, the lion's share of that, and there's two narratives on that. Lion's share of that's not actually ours, in the bankruptcy of the U.S. Corp, and that's the Federal Reserve's obligation. And then there's another narrative that just says we can pay it all off with all the wealth that we've recaptured in the world, including the 650 planes in the Vatican. But the president, I look at it 40,000 foot view. The president of the United States and Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump told us, as you well know, Mike, in the 2017 inauguration, I'm giving you back your country. Well, we're restoring the power back to the people. Well, you can't do that if you don't if you don't have constitutional God's money in place. And that's exactly what's happening in tandem with everything else. How would you rate the progress at Gitmo and Gitmo's a whole can of worms there. You've got all kinds of narratives that cannot be proven because it is a clandestine operation at Gitmo, as was very clearly told by retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt and others, which is why there's a lot of confusions about what's gone on there. And I think the EBS will clear a lot of that up for us. But what's your take on what you think may be going on over these years in the tribunals, prosecutorial and investigative? We got Catherine Herridge down.
It's interesting. Pete Hegseth, very mysterious character in his own right, just at Gitmo yesterday. I don't know if you saw that story.
Yes.
So, clearly there's stuff going on there. I mean, in his first year in presidency, 2017, Trump is pumping all this money into Gitmo. We're going to fill it up with bad guys. Then you have that website, Monkey Works, using publicly accessible information, tracking all of these flights coming in and out of Gitmo. Oh, there's something big that went on there for sure. And I also believe there's probably other sites around the world.
Yes, there are.
You know, as to who went there,
Yeah.
it's hard to speculate. I have a good idea of a certain number of people that I just believe, based on logic and inference and clues, have been executed. And I'll state that. Biden.
I would agree.
McCain was taken care of. Hillary, Nancy Pelosi, Macron, Bibi Netanyahu. A lot of these Hollywood celebs who just disappeared during the COVID lockdowns. So, when people say, well, how do you know that? What evidence? Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to produce a body, a birth certificate? You're looking at a preponderance of interesting data and clues and hints given to us by Q and Trump, deduction, inference. It's kind of like, in the old days here in New York, New Jersey, when a mobster would get shot at a restaurant. Well, how do you know the Gambinos did it? Well, I don't have a body. I haven't done an investigation, but you have to think.
Sure.
You see these people who are clearly wearing masks, okay, and it's not them, Biden especially, but many other cases as well. Well, then what the hell happened to them? And then you have Trump making these wisecracks constantly. I don't know if you've ever seen some of these videos, these montages they put together. Joe Biden, he doesn't know he's alive. He's totally shot. He's only got half his head left. I don't even think that's him. Kamala, she doesn't know she's alive. Or when he says central casting. Once you understand the game, you listen to these things. Right. So, a ton of people have been executed. And those who haven't might be awaiting trial. And there might be other cases where people were just flipped around. All right. In essence, a gun put into your head, say, MF, you want to cooperate now? Okay. Like, isn't it strange? Bill Gates, if it's him, a few months ago, just suddenly came out and said, this climate change stuff, it's really not a big deal. Everybody calm down.
Exactly.
How does that happen? You understand?
Or how about Michael Dell, if that's his first name, decides to be a nice guy out of nowhere with that wife or whatever she was, $6 billion. We own these people based on those executive orders that you talked about earlier, 13818, 13848, Law of War Manual updates. Our good friend Derek Johnson's done an excellent job. That's his space, connecting those dots for us. And but I want to move us into a forward thought for you. I'm curious. Do you think we're going to have a two-party system 2.5, 3 years from now, Democrat and Republican, or will the Democrat Party have imploded? We're going to remain a constitutional republic. We're going to adhere to the Declaration and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. However, how we operate may be differently within that, because the two-party system, as we know, is a uniparty that has failed this nation. Speculation world. What do you think might happen?
Well, Q did say the Democrat Party will cease to exist when all this comes out. Bingo. And I'm of the opinion that they already have ceased to exist. Perhaps not on state and local levels, but this Congress is, you see probably the most visible Democrat right now is Ro Khanna, and he's leading the charge on the Epstein files, right? And he's backing up Thomas Massie. So what kind of Democrat is he? And I think a lot of them have already been replaced. I've always believed that some of the more extreme radical ones who are making fools of themselves and scared so many people away from the left are Q operatives. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Makes sense.
AOC, Elon Omar. I mean, they're basically advocating straight up communism, and they cause a lot of problems for the Democrat Party because people like Pelosi were always astute enough to understand that you have to talk like a moderate or even a conservative sometimes as you're governing left. Okay, not Correct. These girls. know? So stuff like that. I believe the entire Democratic Party is already under submission and has been mostly obliterated. As to the new
I agree.
system that we go to, I hope there's no parties. I mean, George Washington warned against parties.
Mm.
Okay, some of the early founders were against the whole formation of parties, and there's nothing in the Constitution about a so-called two-party system. That's something that's just been
See,
invented.
I vote
Yeah,
for Donald Trump regardless of what party he's under. I'm voting for the
yeah,
man, not the broken
yeah.
system which has been exposed. Fetterman, any quick comments on how he's been deployed?
Yeah, I've always thought he was a Q operative. I mean, he comes out with his sweatpants and everything. It's just too much. That was my suspicion from the get-go. Now,
Mhm.
this last year, he's like Trump's biggest supporter in the Democrat Party, and that really kind of seals it for me. Yeah,
Yes.
he's part of the team, and that's how brilliant and all encompassing this Q operation is. They're not just operating in MAGA territory; they're at all
Mhm.
points.
Yes.
Okay, so you
Global
see people
operation.
like on the radical far left. No, they're serving a purpose. They're the Q
Mhm.
operative. I've got a whole chapter in this book, the 60,000 man secret army. Okay,
Mhm.
60,000 men were recruited for a secret military force, and nobody knows what they're up to. And that was based on a thorough investigation by Newsweek, relying on Freedom of Information Act. It says right in the article, a lot of these people wear masks, they have fake identities, they get them fake fingerprints, and it's a whole clandestine army, and nobody knows what it's for. They began forming it in 2011. So you got
Wow.
60,000 men like that, plus your regular Marine intelligence, Air Force intelligence, National Guard intelligence. You don't know what's real, what's not anymore. It's
Correct.
impossible to tell. But you have to understand the capabilities are limitless. So if anyone starts to
Mhm.
say this sounds really crazy, Mike, no, it's not. You've got unlimited manpower, unlimited resources. They've taken over the media. Yes, they can run whatever scam they want for the good. That is, and everything we're
Mhm.
watching is a movie. It's a total movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a great dovetail into back to Guantanamo Bay, but not from the tribunal standpoint, from the reporting standpoint. I've interviewed, I'm sure you're familiar with retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck of Marines, Juan's chief of staff. He's also at PPN News. Matt Meck was one of the folks, a part of many years ago, I think back in '04, in helping create the media center, which is now fully ready to be operational at Gitmo. I'm told it's the size of like a university gymnasium. Catherine Herridge is the face they put to it a year or so ago. She's returned
Yeah.
recently. From the information and a little bit that I've gathered from Matt Meck and others is that media center. I know an individual that's a couple of individuals that are going through the process to be vetted to be media reporters there. So what the picture I'm creating, I want your feedback on, is we've got this media. We're talking about getting the truth out, the reveals, to stop the questioning of the psyops that have been played on it, to pull the string and tie it all together. I think the media center at Guantanamo Bay is going that, and the EBS is going to be the trigger point that'll just pull the world together on it, because the truth will be revealed. What's your take? Do you have any insights or opinions about news coming out of Guantanamo Bay? Because I think it's coming pretty soon this year.
Well, yeah, but because once FISA breaks, all roads lead to Gitmo. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and again, that's
Yep.
that's the first one that's supposed to pop. And I hate saying it seems imminent because I've been saying that
Yeah.
for a few years, frankly.
Yeah.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and people start to think, well, this is like a boy who cried wolf situation.
Right.
But I would point out that there's actually two lessons from the boy who cried wolf. The second one people
Mm-hmm.
miss, which is in the end, he was right.
There you go.
There was a
There
wolf.
you go.
So eventually, this movie has to end. All movies end. Um,
Mm-hmm. And on
it,
that
it
note,
just
Mike, on that note,
it does seem like it's imminent.
it,
Good.
when you say the movie must end, all movies
Yeah.
do end. There's a narrative. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. You know far better than I. I thought somewhere in the Q drops there was something like the ending may not be for everyone. Now, that is a cliffhanger. That could mean a lot of different things on both sides of that. What's your
Yeah.
what's your take on that? It's just a guess, I realize, but
Yeah.
who's going to be surprised? Are we going to be disappointed, you and I type, or are the other side
Yeah.
going to be disappointed?
Well, I've grappled with that post, and
Hmm.
my views have shifted on it with the passage of time. It's the end
Hmm.
won't be for everybody. And then there's another post where he also says that, and it says it will seem too unrealistic. And that's where we are now. This seems just too unrealistic, even for Q people. Because I tell you,
Hmm.
when I say there's a wag the dog war in Iran, and I don't see any bodies, I don't see any destruction. I see more videos and images from World War One than this so-called war in Iran, where we supposedly sank their whole navy. People think I've gone off the deep end, and so now I understand the end will be too unrealistic. It won't be for everyone because two reasons. It's too hard to believe some of this stuff. Number one. Secondly, I think people have grown tired. We did not expect that it would take this long, and they've lost hope. Okay, so as a combination of those two factors, the end will not be for all of us. I mean, in the very end, I guess everybody will see it, but I think we're in a place right now where a lot of people have just they don't believe anymore because of the duration and because this all seems so unrealistic. So I hope that's what it means. And I hope it doesn't mean that some of the real nasty stuff is not going to be disclosed because the public can't handle it. So the end won't be for everyone.
Yeah.
I hope that's
My
not the
opinion
case.
about that. My opinion about that is probably some things might be withheld, but the things have to be
Yeah.
done on a gradient, as you know, which is why it's taken so
Yeah.
long, in a responsible manner, so we don't have everybody jumping off of bridges, looking at the atrocities that we've committed against one another. But I think we're going to get the lion's share of what we need, how we need it. This is military precision. There is no room for error, especially at the 11th hour. And that leads me to my closing uh, uh, narrative that I'd like you to briefly weigh in on. In the last, well, I don't know, 30, 60 days, we had reports of 10 people in the UFO off-world type of space, uh, reportedly dead, scientists and so forth, and namely Wilcock. And then you've got 5 that were unaccounted for or something of the sort. At the same time that's occurring, the president terminated a board, I think, that was formed many, many years ago concerning these matters. He fired everybody. And then at the same time, he's releasing now the tranches of one step at a time, again, gradiently and responsibly, off-world activity that's been on file since Dwight D. Eisenhower, and those files increasing over all the decades of which every president has had access to this top secret files. And Trump, being the transparent president, is now putting that out there. And we're seeing some interesting videos that one wonders, A, are they real? Is it AI, with the 9-foot, 15-foot aliens and so forth? And again, we're in a psyop, irregular warfare, as you stated. What's your opinion about what we're seeing, and how does this play into things as we move forward? Because I think it's a big story.
Well, it's something I didn't expect. It's something I've never really given too much credibility to or time to. But then at the same time, they're clearly going in that direction. I don't know what it means, and I just there's
We'll
just not
find
enough
out.
data out there on this subject to even try to infer where they're going with it. But it is interesting as hell.
Yeah, as you know, the president, some people think he's, not intelligent and he's doing these silly things. And
Yeah.
of course, everything is calculated. Something this big is not a mistake or an accident or a coincidence. So we'll all wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, maybe they want to show us that there is some kind of long-term plan by the deep state to scare us with an alien invasion of some
Yes.
sort. And we learned that
That
all of this
that
UFO stuff was them. They're plotting for this big day. That theory's been bandied about for decades. That there's going to come a day where they fake an alien invasion. right? H.G.
Sure.
Wells, Orson Welles, the old
Mhm.
broadcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always said if they ever pulled that, people really would believe it. So
Mhm.
maybe that's where they're going
Well,
with it. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's along the lines of what you're saying, there's a narrative permeating around that subject that Hillary Clinton, of course, said, I think to Podesta years ago, is it time to pull the alien card? And it seems the narrative that seems to be permeating
Yeah.
out there now is that we trumped them with that by bringing the files out
Yeah.
so that they couldn't
Yeah.
run that scare event on us. And now we're actually going to start leaking
Yeah.
truth. But it's a fascinating time. Mike, is there anything else
Yeah.
before I conclude with an announcement to our audience that you'd like to cover that we didn't cover that might be on your mind?
Mm. I would just like to say, in general, and I can't sum it all up here, but if you take what has happened in the last 10 years and also consider what has not happened, uh, it's really something I never would have expected to see in my lifetime. There's really a whole bunch of
Mhm.
achievements, and I'm not talking about the stuff that we have to figure out on our own what's going on with this movie. Stuff that openly has happened. I just wrote a piece right
Yes.
now. Have you noticed that? Well, you're in Thailand, but over here in the United States, this annual Pride Month, which was becoming a big deal, is getting
Mhm.
bigger every year.
It's a big deal
It's
over
a
here
totally
too.
mute.
Yeah.
It's totally disappeared, or it's very muted. Okay,
Mm.
things like that.
Well,
The
yeah.
global warming hoax.
Hmm.
Global warming hoax is dead. NATO is dead.
Correct.
ESG investing, where all of these corporations were compelled to be good global citizens, otherwise they get booted out of the big BlackRock. That's dead. And you could go on racial discrimination against whites in colleges. That's dead. I could put together 100 accomplishments that have happened in the last 10 years. So I know we're all waiting on the big fireworks, the arrests, and everything like that.
Right.
But
Right.
we have to
Right.
be patient with that. And in the meantime, savor all of these things that have happened. Most importantly, ask yourself, where would we be if we had experienced 8 years of Hillary, and we would probably be in our second year of Michelle, Big Mike Obama. All right. So count your
Hmm.
blessings.
Yeah.
Things have happened.
Mike,
Yeah.
you've closed out this special broadcast with something so powerful. You're absolutely right. All those narratives in the globalist new world order, the globalistas plan that they
Yeah.
worked on, Agenda 2030 and so forth. Most of those narratives, as you just started to indicate, are dead in the
Yeah.
water. They're not there anymore. That's massive
Yeah.
accomplishment, and we're just getting ready for the final reveals of what we've been
Yeah.
speculating has been going on behind the scenes that'll come to the surface. Um, to my producer, put up on a 3 screen the promo. Folks listening to our broadcast in America and all over the world, you can join Mike King and I. Mike will be on screen for 1 solid hour. One purpose, simply to answer your questions. It's a private Q&A in our private Zoom room. So to learn about participating in that, visit jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on Premium Portal if it's a fit for you. We look forward to seeing you there. We had Juan O'Savin previous months. We had Mike Jaco, Derek Johnson, Will Barney, leaving Captain Rob Cunningham. And we're honored to have you, Mike, join us on Thursday, June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Folks coming, we maxed out our seating capacity with Zoom last time. We've increased that so we don't have to block people out. My apologies on that. Everyone, and also they're archived. So if you're a premium member, they're there. They're all there to be reviewed later on. But I encourage you, again, it's not an interview. It's not a speech. Mike and I will be on screen. I'm simply your host. Mike will answer your questions. You'll be submitting them, and he'll answer your questions live in real time. So come join us. And I thank you, Mike, for taking your time and dedicating that to our audience on June 21st, 5th, rather, day after my birthday. Any closing comments and anything on your mind you'd like to sign off, do so now. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Well, I just invite everybody, please go to realnewsandhistory.com, and at the very least, at the footer of any page, submit your email. This way you'll get on my mailing list and see all of my updates. You're gonna love this stuff. If you enjoyed my discussion tonight, this is basically what I do. is I connect dots and put pieces together for you. So that's realnewsandhistory.com. Bookmark it, get on my mailing list. I also have a Rumble channel, by the way, too. So if you're watching on Rumble, make sure you follow me on Rumble. That's Mike King. There might be another Mike King, but mine is the biggest, Mike King. Just go there, follow me on Rumble as well, because I do videos and I do articles. So that's it. Thanks for your time this evening, everybody.
You bet. Thank you very much, Mike, for your research. You are in a unique place in terms of people with a voice and an audience because of the deep research you do and tie it all together, as you stated when we kicked this off an hour ago, to current events. And I think that's really helped a lot of people. And as you know, as we've discussed, there's so many unknowns by design in this operation that we'll all come to learn about pretty soon. So thank you for your work and your sacrifice and everything you do. I'll be right back after this important announcement about healthcare. Thank you, Mike.
The Truth About Health premieres this month as a weekly JMC Broadcasting production with Christy Lee as your show host. Christy Lee is an award-winning former mainstream news anchor and independent journalist with more than 20 years of experience in broadcasting. Honored as Best Anchor and Best Enterprise Reporting honors, she later anchored at a Fox affiliate in California before walking away from legacy media after witnessing its deepening lack of journalistic integrity and shift toward propaganda. Christy is a fearless voice for the voiceless and a staunch advocate for holding power accountable. She's been featured on Fox News, The Bongino Report, InfoWars, Lindell TV, and numerous independent platforms nationwide. She has interviewed high-profile figures including RFK Jr., Dr. Robert Malone, General Michael Flynn, Ron Paul, Carrie Lake, and many more. The Truth About Health premieres June 2026 as a weekly JMC Broadcasting production. This weekly broadcast features expert doctors, scientists, and healthcare professionals. We don't reject science, we go further in it. We go beyond symptoms, headlines, and hype, bringing you the truth about what actually heals the body. Thorough healthcare coverage, including new technologies, legislation, and justice, will also be addressed. Sign up for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and tune into The Truth About Health with Christy Lee, only on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right, Off World with JMC also launches another new broadcasting operation, if you will, here at JMC Broadcasting. This will be a monthly panel. We very much look forward to this first panel. Let's take a look at some of the images on our premiere episode. Joining us on Off World next week is Mel Carmine, if we have these images, Alex Collier, Alyssa. To my producer, do you have these images? All right, maybe we don't, but Mel Carmine will be joining us, Alex Collier, Alyssa, and retired Colonel Delta Forces Chuck Sellers. This is our panel for the Off-World show launching just next week. Sign up for free at jmcbroadcasting.com for notifications. Follow us on our Rumble, Truth Social X, and various different platforms, as well as Facebook. And again, to join Mike King and I will be June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern. You got to be a premium member for that. So explore premium, see if it's an option for you. If it is, we look forward to seeing you there. I'll be signing off now. Thank you, Mike King, and thank you all for following, liking, and sharing our work here at JMC Broadcasting. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.